Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
And the Chancellor, Philip Hammond, has come under attack from Brexiteers after warning of the negative consequences of leaving the EU without a deal. Well, as yet another row over Brexit threatens to engulf the Conservative Party, Theresa May is caught between addressing the warring divisions within her own party and then negotiating a deal with the EU before the Brexit clock runs out. So today we ask, which is the bigger headache for the Prime Minister, Europe or the Tory party? Joining us to discuss, co-founder of Our Future, Our Choice, Will Dry, and Patrick Christie's political reporter at Westmonster. Thanks both for your time. Will, I'll start with you. What's her bigger problem, the EU negotiators or the warring in her party?
I think the warring in her party is probably the bigger problem, although they're both, I mean, she's struggling really to get anything good out of Europe. I think the Tory party is a complete mess over Brexit. It's split directly between the nutters and the people who are, in my opinion, wets. They can't seem to get a good deal with the Prime Minister. And I really think that the Prime Minister is struggling so much and the situation is now deteriorating into such a mess that the only solution is to put whatever she negotiates back to the people for a people's vote and let the people to decide what to do next.
Patrick, how much of that do you agree with? It's a mess, and it's such a mess, Will says that we should vote again.
No, I mean, it's a mess because the top of the Tory party is a mess, and Theresa May, frankly, isn't a good enough leader. She's not a good enough Prime Minister. I would ask Will, since when has it been the solution to a political crisis to simply overturn the result of a democratic referendum? That's not the way that we go about things in this country. Theresa May has gone about creating a scenario, specifically with regard to Brexit, really, of chaos, calamity, inconsistency. And that's something that the people don't like, and that's something that the people within her own party, the Tory MPs, don't like, and so it's only natural that they would start to speak out against her. And yeah, I mean, I don't think we're necessarily in a situation where we're going to face a leadership challenge, but the fact is she's proven herself to not be particularly good when it comes to negotiating with the European Union, and she's not proved herself to be capable as a Prime Minister, and I think it's about time there was a change, really, at the top.
OK, we want to talk about leadership challenges in just a moment, but Will, coming back to you, if there was a change of leadership, there was a general election, there is, at this point in time, no party really, apart from, I suppose, the Liberal Democrats, who are saying that they don't want Brexit to happen, because the Labour Party are also in a bit of a mess. They can't get their message straight either. So we're going to be in a mess, and that's not even before we talk about when this comes back to Parliament and the mess we could be in with that. There's going to be gridlock here, isn't there?
Well, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I think the reason that there is going to be gridlock, and that's absolutely indisputable, and that's completely because politicians have led us into this complete quagmire, that's why we have to give it back to the people. Now, Patrick said that that was the wrong thing to do, but I don't see any answers from Patrick. And the ones that I think he might suggest, no deal, the hardest Brexit possible, we've just seen the own government. It's not Project Fear, it's not Tony Blair or some other figure. It's the own government. It's the Brexiteer supporting government now saying that we're going to be stockpiling medicines for 6 weeks, that there are going to be huge queues in Dover.
Well, let's let Patrick answer that then.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's not true. Dominic Raab came out and said that that simply wasn't going to be the case.
He said we're going to be stockpiling medicines for 6 weeks, did he not?
Yeah, he just said, look, but it's not exactly a long-term solution. We're still not going to be exactly all this Project Fear scaremongering. There's going to be no sandwich fillers, etc.
It's not I don't mean it's Project Fear.
It's not going to be great. No, the fact is that Theresa May, you said it was a Brexit-backing government, and it's not, is it? Theresa May's a Remainer. You don't put a rugby player in charge of a football club.
But Patrick, Dominic Raab is a Brexiteer.
Dominic Raab's a Brexiteer, but he's being completely hamstrung by Theresa May, who is a Remainer. And that was evidenced by the fact that when he went out in Brussels and made the speech that he did recently, trying to just remotely talk up a no deal, which, now bear in mind, actually, that I'm not completely in favour of a no deal scenario. That said, when it comes to a no deal, we have to be realistic about this. The European Union is going to give us two options, either a deal that's essentially a punishment deal that would scare off other EU countries from leaving the European Union, or they would obviously try and give us a deal that would result in us basically staying in the European Union. Now, neither of those two things can be acceptable to a government, and so you end up with a no-deal scenario. And there are positives of a no-deal, not having to give the 40 billion quid back, getting instant ability to make trade deals around the world, control of your borders, etc. And if we had a Prime Minister and a cabinet that were willing to go and make the positive case, then I don't think you would see, frankly, frankly, I don't even think we'd be having this discussion. I don't think you'd see the negativity surrounding Brexit that we are seeing at the moment.
OK, Patrick, you had a good moment there, Will.
Well, let me just clarify something he just said. He said that we'd have the ability to make trade deals all around the world. If we had no deal, we'd be on WTO terms. And the Brexit solution to that is to cut all our tariffs to zero. When you're negotiating with China, with America, and your tariffs are already zero, why on earth would they at all enter a negotiation with you? Because they've already got you exactly where they want you. So we wouldn't be able to do that. And actually, you know, I voted to leave. I'm not this big Europhile. One of the reasons I voted to leave was because I thought it would be awesome to make our trade deals around the world. So no deal doesn't satisfy that for me. Neither does the Prime Minister's option, because we'd be tied to European rules. I really think the only solution is to have this people's vote. The reason I think that is because 84% of Leave voters, like myself, think that this situation is a mess. 1.5 million young people have joined the electorate since 2016. 82% of them think that we should not go ahead with Brexit, that we should remain in the European Union. This will of the people argument, which that's all they pretend to have now, is complete nonsense. The people are turning against Brexit. They're going in favour of a people's vote because they are... well, it is true. 14 of the last 15 polls suggest that to be true, so I think you're living in cloud cuckoo land, personally.
Well,
we'll see if it's true or not when we have a people's vote.
Let Patrick come back on that claim that the tide is turning.
So there was a Sun on Sunday poll done as recently as this Sunday, shock horror, that shows that the majority of the people that have changed their mind since Brexit are Remainers that now want to leave. So that's simply not the case at all, there, Will, that people want to remain in the European Union. And I find it very strange, frankly, that these groups like Our Future, Our Choice, that wrap themselves in this cloak of democracy would want to...
Is that true? Sorry, just repeat what you said just a moment. Is that true, what you said?
Sorry, what was about the Sun on Sunday poll?
Yes.
Yeah, so he said that of the people that have changed their minds since the EU referendum, so going from one way to the other, more of them are Remainers going to leave than Leave going to remain. That's my understanding of that poll. And in terms of what Will's just said there, I completely disagree that the notion of increasing democracy results in overturning a democratic vote and at the risk of disenfranchising the public for generations to come. So less political engagement, fewer people likely to go and vote in future elections. That's not democracy. We need to just get on with it.
OK.
How can it be disenfranchising the people to give them another vote? And on the Sun and Sunday poll that you cite, 44% of people think that Brexit is a historic mistake. 30% of people disagree with that. So on your own poll, which, by the way, was maybe a little bit dodgy, because the other 14 said that a majority is for a people's vote and 84% think Brexit's a mess. So on your little dodgy poll, people think it's a historic mistake.
Patrick?
Yeah, no, I don't believe that to be the case. I think that speaking to even Remain-backing MPs I talk to on a regular basis, when their issue with Theresa May is with her leadership, it's not with Brexit. I think the vast majority of the people just want to get on with it. They don't want this dilly-dallying, and it's only natural that public dissatisfaction would increase if you have a Prime Minister that can't even begin to say she believes in Brexit, and if you have a Chancellor who's constantly pumping out Project Fear scaremongering. If there was a bit more positivity about Brexit, you wouldn't see this public tide or this public dissatisfaction. You would see a bit of a positivity about the whole situation. If they're relentlessly fed negativity, that's what the public's going to come up with, isn't
last
it?
one on this, because we're getting bogged down in a second referendum chat here. But, Will, you're being relentlessly negative. Then I do want to move it on just slightly.
Well, less frowns and more smiles is not going to change the core facts of the situation, that we have zero negotiating power in this negotiation. Partly, yes, because the Prime Minister is hopeless. Partly because it's one country against 27. And that's what I've realised as I've transitioned from believing Brexit would be a good thing to now thinking that it's a complete mess. I don't think that Patrick has any answers. He didn't defend the no-deal scenario at all, and that's why.
OK, I do want to move this on. Patrick, because you brought it up earlier, the fact that you think Theresa May is a weak leader and you wouldn't be surprised if there was a leadership challenge. The founder of your website, Aaron Banks and Andy Wigmore, have tried to join the Tory party. They've been blocked from doing so. What are they up to? Are they trying to make sure that they get a nice Brexiteer-orientated leader of the Tory party?
Well, I've just been on holiday for a couple of weeks, so unfortunately I've not been privy to the exact ongoings.
Oh, well, I've just told you what's happened, so what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. Well, look, no, my thoughts on it, anyone in the country is perfectly entitled to try and join any political party they want, and any political party is perfectly within their rights to allow or not allow anyone to join. I think what it is a reflection, really, isn't it, of the dissatisfaction of Brexiteers, especially some of the harder Brexiteers, with the direction of Brexit. They are some of the most high-profile, harder Brexiteers, of course, but I'm sure there are other Brexiteers as well joining the Tory party, because realistically, if a leadership election did come up, they would want to have the power to be able to elect a Brexit-backing Prime Minister who would put forward a positive case for Brexit. So I think it's pretty straightforward.
He's got his own party, though, doesn't he? That's UKIP. So he's done with UKIP, is he? Wants to move on?
Look, you'd have to speak to Aaron Banks. He is a founder of one of my websites that I work for. I'm not privy to exactly what goes on in his head. My take on it is that UKIP is a very different party to the one that he was initially involved in, and that now presumably feels that the Conservative Party is more.
Just want to push you once more on this, Patrick, before I go to Will. A lot of people would criticise Momentum as infiltrating the Labour Party to get a far-left leadership. Would this be the same thing, the far-right infiltrating the Tory party to get a more right-leaning leadership?
I don't know if far-right's the right word. I think, for me, far-right has certain xenophobic connotations.
Right-leaning.
Well, potentially, yes. I mean, I don't see why that's a controversial issue, really. I mean, if you are involved in politics, you presumably want your type of politics to be enacted on the biggest stage possible. So presumably you would want to join a party and push that through.
OK,
yeah?
well, let's throw it back to you. As someone who would like to see a second referendum vote, are you worried about possible... he's had his application blocked to the Tory party, but are you concerned about a more Brexit-minded leader of the Tory party?
Oh, absolutely. I think what Aaron Banks has worked out, and, I don't agree with him on much, if anything, but what he's worked out is that this whole process at the moment is a complete sham. The battleground for Brexit is ultimately actually the Tory party, partly because we don't have a sufficiently strong opposition, and I'd like to see Jeremy Corbyn do quite a lot more, but also because there's no democracy in this process at the moment. It's going to be sorted out between the members of the Tory party and the MPs of the Tory party, and that's why he's going to try and infiltrate his hard-right UKIP members into the party. The best solution to that is to, as I've always said, throw it back to the people, let them clear up the mess, let them decide whether or not they think the Prime Minister's deal is good enough for our future.
Okay. You clearly have massively different ideas on the kind of deal that you would like to see coming out of this. Just a final question to both of you. We've got 7.5 weeks, Patrick, until we're supposed to have an agreement on the terms of our exit and the outline of our future relationship with the EU. Is that going to happen?
I think that, in all likelihood, we are going to get some form of deal. I think that what the exact contents of that deal are remain to be seen. I fear that we are going to end up in some kind of Brexit in name-only situation where we haven't really taken back much control, where we essentially are a member of the European Union, perhaps signed up to some of their four freedoms. I actually think that is the most likely outcome, because that seems to be the way Theresa May is going. That said, no deal is likely as well, and I don't think that's something to be feared. OK, final question as well to you, Will. 7.5 weeks to go. Are we going to get to any agreement?
I think we will get an agreement. I think one of the reasons the Prime Minister is focusing so much on no deal and this stockpiling is because she wants to lower the bar so low that when she gets her deal, there's a big sigh of relief and, it completely betrays the Brexit vote. We don't make our trade deals. We don't have control of our own laws, but at least there's not stockpiling of medicines. I think that's a disgrace to generations which are going to have to live with that decision. And, I think it's absolutely insane for any country to do the exact opposite of what 82% of its young people want to do.
Will, Patrick, thank you both for taking the time to speak to us. Robust debate, as always.